Thank you, fourth grade friends. All right, so we are talking about the regions. We're going to finish up our magazine, okay? So let's look at our vocab words for our last 2 pages in our magazine. The first one is called aquifer. Can you say that with me?
Aquifer.
That's a noun, okay? It's an underground layer of rock or soil that yields water. What's another word for yields? That's a really fancy word. That doesn't absorb, it yields water. Nathan? It doesn't stop it. Yield sometimes can mean to stop. This time it's a rock that's yielding water. Do you know? Do you know, Elijah? It's kind of giving. It's making water, right? It's an aquifer is giving out water. Okay. The Ogalla Aquifer supplies water to the Midwest. All right. Irrigation. Can you say that with me?
Irrigation.
It's the use of canals, ditches, pipes, and other means to supply water to land or crops. In the hot, dry Southwest, farmers rely on irrigation to grow crops. Sorry, words are hard today. The second to last one is crude oil. It's 2 words. It's unrefined oil. So it's oil that's in the ground, like it's naturally made. They haven't refined it or brought it to like a plant to make it usable. It's unrefined. It's natural, how you would find it in the earth. There are several companies that drill for crude oil in the Gulf of Mexico. And then our last one is a refinery. That's a factory for purifying those crude substances such as oil or sugar. So they have these special refineries that they bring the oil to make it pure and make it better to use. Because if we have it crude, we can't really use it. There's too much stuff in it. They have to purify it. Okay? Let's review our question that we're talking about. Look at the cover of your magazine for me. The cover. What is our question? Maybe it's not on there. I thought it was on your cover. Never mind. All right. So the thing that we're talking about during this magazine is what are the 5 geographic regions of the United States, and what makes each unique or special? Yep. It is a touch screen. I'm pretty lucky. All right, let's start. We've talked about 3 of them already. What's one region we've talked about? You can look back through your magazine if you need to. What's one region? What's one? Maddie? We have talked about the Northeast. We talked really briefly about that. Do you remember what makes the Northeast unique? Do you remember what makes it unique, Monica?
It was...
Think back to the Northeast. Like we talked about like that New York, Maine, Vermont area. What made that so unique?
It was...
You forgot? Do you remember, Brooke?
Yeah, it was like more in the north. It gets more colder.
They have cold. What else do they have?
Snow.
Well, that comes with cold. Yep, they get snow. Is it always snowy?
No.
No, they still get summer. They do get one type of really bad weather, though. What kind of weather do they get more of? Do you remember, Ryan? They do get some hurricanes in the Northeast. Good. All right, what's another region that we've learned about? Amelia? We have talked about the Midwest, and we like the Midwest, right? Because that's where we are. What makes us unique? What's so unique about the Midwest? Think back. Zane?
We have snow and heat.
We get it really cold, and we can get really warm. Have you seen that meme where it's like, if you can't handle me at my worst, and it's Minnesota being negative 20 degrees, it says, can't handle me at my best, and then it's like Minnesota lake summer is just a gorgeous, beautiful day. So you got to take both. You got to have the really cold and the really warm. And in the Midwest, we get what kind of storms specifically? Do you remember it, Adam?
Tornado and thunder.
We get tornado and a lot of thunderstorms. Do we get hurricanes?
No.
No, we don't get hurricanes. Good.
And we have every season.
We do get every season. Does the Northeast get every season?
Yeah.
The Northeast and the Midwest get every season. Yep, we do too. All right, let's see. What else? We done the Northeast, the Midwest. There's one more that we've learned about. One more. Zane?
Northwest.
We haven't talked about the Northwest yet. Remember, Ryan?
South.
We have talked about the Southeast. That was on page 3 and 4 if you want to find that in your magazine. The Southeast. What was so unique about the Southeast? What's unique about the Southeast? Rose?
They don't get all the seasons. It's just really hot.
They get a lot of like that spring, summer weather. They don't get that winter or fall, really. It stays pretty warm. What kind of bad weather does the Southeast get a lot of? Monica? They get a lot of hurricanes, too. That East Coast gets a lot of hurricanes. Good. All right, we're going to read about 2 more today, so we'll come back and fill this out after. Now I can make this full screen, I think. Can we see that a little better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we are going to read about the Southwest today. We're going to visit the Southwest. So find page 14 and 15 in your magazines.
Got it.
All right, so we've learned about the Northeast, Southwest, and Midwest. We know that they are all unique. The Southwest, we're going to talk about plants and animals that live here. Raise your hand if you've been to any of these Southwest states. Have any of you been? Good. Raise your hand if you've been to Arizona before.
My grandma lives there.
How many of you have been to New Mexico? How many of you have been to Oklahoma? Been to Oklahoma? Isn't that your state, Aiden? Is that the one you picked, or was that Levi? Levi. Awesome. All right, and Texas. How many of you? I figured a lot of us have been to Texas because that's a big state. Okay. So we're going to read about the Southwest today. Do I have a volunteer to come read just the first paragraph of that? So you will stop at, like in the Southwest. Let's have, who haven't I heard? Christian, I haven't heard from you in a long time. Can you come on up and read? We're starting up here in the top corner. Remember, I'm watching for friends following along and being respectful listeners. Go ahead.
By the time you got on the plane after your show about the Midwest, you feel like an ice cube. We have one more episode to host before you can go home and take a break. You prepared for the worst, but when you arrive at your next destination, it's way too hot for all that snow gear. Outside, the sun has turned the sidewalk into one big bright griddle. Wildflowers are blooming, and so are the cacti. This is what winter is like in the Southwest.
Oh my gosh, thanks, Christian. That's so crazy. Could you imagine that being winter? Like you could fry an egg on the sidewalk. It's like a griddle, it said. Whoa. All right, Claire, can you come read the last part? It didn't work. It must not have been hot enough. All right, Claire's reading the last paragraph in that top part. Yep.
You're going to start this episode by the rim, or edge of the Grand Canyon. On the way there, you notice that people don't waste water. Once you leave the city, the landscape is dry and brown.
Creosote,
bushes, and
Octolio, I think.
Octolio plants line with the dusty roads. You can see that the lizards and birds have adapted to the absence of rain.
Good. What does that mean? Absence of rain. What does that mean, Micah?
It means that there hasn't been rain there and they already running on time.
Yeah,
They're kind of adapted to it, so they're kind of used to it.
They're kind of used to not having that water, that rainwater. All right, let's read this. We're going to go back in time to the 1500s. The 1500s. Lizzie, can you come read about the 1500s? Native Americans first.
In the 1500s, Native Americans lived all over the Southwest. Then in the early 1500s, after the Spanish conquered the Aztec Empire in Mexico, Francisco
Vasquez. Yep.
Vasquez de Colorado came north. By the 1600s, the Spanish were building Santa Fe in what is now New Mexico. The Spanish controlled much of the Southwest until 1821, when Mexico won its independence from Spain. Wars with Mexico led to statehood for Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico.
So pretty much almost all of these states, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, were once controlled by the Spanish, by Spain. And then they fought, and who got the land?
United States.
Who got the land?
Oh, Mexico. Well, yeah, America.
They won it for themselves first, right? They won. What did they win?
The Southwest.
Read back. What was that word? What did they win? When Mexico won its Isaac? Independence. What does that mean? They won independence. Monica?
They had their own country.
They kind of were their own. Like America won independence from Britain, right? They were their own for a little bit. And then the United States kind of took them in to be part of the nation. So New Mexico was actually its own for a little bit. Isn't that crazy? Isaac?
When they were fighting, is that when the Alamo?
This was the time of the Alamo, yep, but you'll learn more about that as you get older. I think 6th, 7th grade, you talk more about the Alamo. There was a really big battle in the Southwest, in Texas, specifically. Huh? All right, let's read down through rain, though rain seldom falls, though rain. Let's see, let's have Zane. Can you come read about though rain seldom falls? Down in the bottom left corner of the page.
The whole entire paragraph thingy.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. Through the rain seldom falls in Arizona and New Mexico, water can be found in aquifers. An aquifer is water that lays deep under rock and sand to get to it. People drill wells, but most people don't have wells. In Phoenix, they depend on Lake Mead.
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 Good.
The reservoir behind the Hoover Dam. It provides of Arizona's water. Some of the water is directed through aqueducts, canals that carry water. The water is used in homes and for
Irrigation.
Or watering crops.
So where do they get that water? Because they don't have like streams or lakes that they have just handy dandy. Where do they get a lot of it from? Where do they get it from, Maddie? They use it for irrigation to water the crops, but where do they get the water so they can use irrigation? Alasia? They use the aqueducts, and where do the aqueducts come from? You're close. Go back a little bit, Alasia. Aqueducts get the water from Monica?
Lake Mead.
From Lake Mead, or it's kind of like the word aqueducts. Amelia? The aquifers. Good. Like where it's hidden kind of under the ground and they have to drill wells to it. They use either the aquifers or from Lake Mead. But if you're not around Lake Mead, can you get water really easy? No. So then they would use the well from the aquifer. Good. All right, let's come up to the top right. Let's go in 1830. 1830. Maddie, can you come read about 1830?
In 1830, the U.S. government gave most of present-day Oklahoma to Native Americans, who have been forced out of their traditional lands. This area was known as Indian Territory in 1838. Soldiers forced most of the Cherokee to move there. More than 4,000 Cherokee died along the way. Their journey became known as the Churro Tears in 1889. The government said this land was now free for settlers willing to live in Indian territory. About 50,000 settlers rushed into the lake, into Lake the Land.
Take the land. Good. So remember how we talked about when we talked about pre-Columbian people, how they started kind of on that East Coast and they keep getting pushed? Well, it's happening again, and this time was the biggest one. What did they call this journey that this group of Native Americans had to take? Zach? The Trail of Tears. Now, when you hear that, what comes to your mind? Sadness, tears, right? So they were forced to move. Now, we also know this wasn't a happy event because what happened to a lot of these Native Americans? Adam? They died. How many died?
40,000?
Not 40. Ryan? 4,000. That's 4,000 too many. All because the United States wanted that land for settlers. They took these people and just said, nope, you gotta move. And they started killing them and forcing them to move. Does that seem very fair?
Nope.
No, right? So was our country always as kind and as happy as we think it is?
No.
It wasn't,
Not
which
at
is
all.
sad. Levi? Okay. All right, so we know now that these Native Americans are being forced to move once again to an even smaller spot. All right, let's read about today's energy with that picture where it kind of looks like a castle almost. Think back to our vocab words. Which word do you think this building is? It's a refinery. Good. Let's have Alicia. Can you come read about the refinery? Read at this one. Good.
Today's energy provides many jobs in the Southwest. On land and in the Gulf of Mexico, huge drills pull crude oil that forms natural from inside the Earth's crust. Pipelines,
Just let her be.
huh?
Pipelines.
Pipelines, trucks, and ships carry that oil to refineries. Refineries turn into products such as gasoline and heating oil.
So they use that oil to make lots of jobs for people, right? And we use that oil then as energy. All right, let's read about climate varies. The climate varies. Rosie, can you come read about climate varies?
Climate varies a lot in the Southwest. The mountains and the desert areas can be snowy in the winter and hot in the summer. But the Southwest has a hot, dry climate. That's because mountains block rain clouds from the West Coast. This effect is called rain shadow. When it does, it ditches and gullies up quickly. The rocky soil is not very absorbent. Over time, the fast-moving rainwater carves out deep ditches called
Arroyos.
arroyos.
So the Southwest, normally, what do we think the weather's like, the climate?
Hot.
Usually we think it's hot. Is it always hot? Where could it be different in the Southwest? Specifically, it told us a certain place that it can be snowy in winter. Where can it be snowy in the winter in the Southwest? Where can it be? Fourth grade friends, I got a few friends participating today. I'd love to have a lot more. Where did we say it could be snowy in the winter? Eden? In the mountains? Where else? Where else could it? In the desert. Isn't that kind of crazy? Parts of the desert can actually get snow because it gets so cold. And then a little bit of water, but it gets so hot too that what usually happens to the water? It dries, it evaporates. Good. All right, one last section to read about. We're going to make our way west now. The last parts. We are going to start at the top on page 17.
Hey, Wyoming.
At the top. Who has not read yet that would like to? Brooke, can you come read the top part, please?
Okay.
We're almost done, fourth grade friends.
Now that you've shot footage in 4 regions, the team is making your show has plenty to work on. They send you home until it's time to shoot the very last episode. You're going to wait until summer. After all, what's the best time to talk to folks about life in the West? After months of waiting, you finally get your ticket to Los Angeles. You're shooting your last episode in Hollywood.
Awesome. Good job. The big day finally arrives. Standing on Hollywood Boulevard, you can't stop reading stars' names on the sidewalk. There are more than 2,500. You tell your viewers that people come to the region for lots of reasons. Work, vacations, and climate are popular ones. Americans love heading west. Let's see about some of those reasons. Let's come down to page 16 and in between Alaska and California there. Alaska and California. Same volunteers wanted to read? Camille, you want to read for me? That'd be helpful.
By 1943,
18.
By 1843, trains were crossing the Rockies into California. Workers were found gold nuggets near Starter Mill in 1848. Soon, 80 million people flooded California in the Golden Rush. 2 decades later,
Transcontinental, it's a big word.
Transcontinental Railroad made cross-country travel much easier. Once it was built, the price of the travel across the country dropped to $1,000 to $150.
Yeah, so the price of living there dropped from $1,000 down to $150. Why would the price drop so much? What happened that made it drop so much? Zach?
Because the train is coming and it'd be a lot easier, and not many people want to live.
Yeah. It made it cheaper because the train can get there and it's easier to get there. Awesome. All right, let's read about Camp Climate. This one actually goes across the pages, right in the middle between both of those pictures. Adam, can you come read that one?
Can climate change the future of fun? From 1976 to 1978, a drought in California drove homeowners to drain their pools. All those empty basins and backyards were like catnip for skateboarders. Soon they were inventing tricks like aerials, inverts, and the ollie. The new craze led to helmets and pads, not to mention concrete skate parks and first professional skaters.
So before this drought, where there was no water, skating wasn't as popular. But now, because they had to drain their pools, they have a place to do all these cool tricks. Who knew no water could be so fun? All right, let's read the next one. The West is the largest. Up and down over here. Amelia, can you come read that one? Rick.
I want to make a comment, actually.
Not right now. Hold it in. We'll see if we got time, okay?
The West is the largest of the country's regions. People have been hoping to realize their dreams in the West ever since the 1850s. Hollywood actors, writers, singers, and dancers. They all try their luck in entertainment. Silicon Valley and Seattle summon tomorrow's tech stars. Denver draws business to its metropolitan center. Alaska welcomes people to fish, harvest timber, or just enjoy wilderness. And Hawaii calls everyone who dreams of an island in the holiday in the Pacific.
Good. So it's not just the states connected on land. The West also includes Alaska, which is way up top, and Hawaii, which is way out to the west, which is its own little island. All right, we got one more part. In a way, this Westward Migration. In a way. Holly, have you read yet? Will you come on up?
In a way, this westward migration began when
Meriwether.
Meriwether Lewis and William Clark left what is now St. Louis in 1804. They headed up the Missouri River. Eventually, they reached the Pacific Ocean. For most of this trip, they had
Assistance?
assisted from a Shoshone woman named Sacagawea.
Good.
She helped
Navigate.
and communicate with other native people. Not many years after that trip, traders discovered South Pass. It's a crossing in Wyoming through the Rocky Mountains. Settlers used it to reach California, Utah, and
Good. Actually, I know the right way to say that state? Oregon. My best friend is from there, and I would say Oregon, and she'd say, we haven't gone anywhere. You get it? So she would say, I'm from Oregon, because I haven't gone anywhere. So, all these people wanted to move out west. Think about that. If you heard that there was gold out there, how many of you would want to travel out west? Right? Well, and then, now, how many of you can do it if it costs $1,000 to get out there? What if it only costs you $150? Right? Okay. So these states started to grow, but a lot of people went by wagon. I want you to do me a favor. On Monday, I want you to check in with me. I'm going to check in with you. Ask mom and dads if they ever played a game called the Oregon Trail.
oh, we have
Okay. I want you to ask mom and dad if they've ever played Oregon Trail, because it was a really fun game when I was little. I tried to find it for our computers, and I think it's too old. I don't think they make it anymore. It's a game about where you travel like you are one of these pioneers. You're traveling in a wagon, and you come across, and eventually the goal is to do what? Get all the way out to California to get your gold. But unfortunately, things happen, like you get bit by rattlesnakes. Sometimes you get diseases. Sometimes you die of dehydration. Most of the time, you never make it to Oregon because of all the bad things happening. Okay? Holly?
So my mom went there and she got us these books, and you get to choose your way, and then you might not.
If you want to bring those in, we can maybe take a look at those. That'd be kind of cool. Isaac?
Do you have an ox pulling the bison?
Usually they had a big ox or like a buffalo or a bison pulling it. And then sometimes the ox would die. And then can you move your wagon?
No.
So you were kind of stuck there then too. That's another way you might die, just because you're stuck somewhere. Rosie?
My mom, she would play that, and she said the first time she got there it was the last day she was at her house because she had to leave for college. And her 6-year-old brother said, let's play Oregon Trail.
And she finally got there?
And then she finally got there.
Oh my goodness. Are these just comments or stories, or I'd like to get you guys to recess? Questions? Comment? Any questions? Question. Brooke?
My question is, when did they ever make this? And also, my parents are from, Utopia, so they
They probably haven't. They made it, I think, in, the 1980s or so. Yes. Maddie? So you would kind of log in like a computer game, and it would kind of save your progress. And then you would have to do things along like little quests almost. And sometimes you would die, and sometimes you would live. Micah? The Southwest? It was not. It was about going west. You have a question about the Southwest? Okay. They might have, but if you cut open a cactus, is that going to be alive anymore then? In a last resort, you could, but you didn't want to do that for everyone, otherwise there'd be no cactuses, right? All right, my friends, that is all we got for social studies today.